more specialized in film and music law. And basically, what film lawyers do is from pre-production, which is story development, script development, story idea, all the way down to the final product, and also exploiting the product. All those processes involve lawyers, and that's where you function as a lawyer, from raising money to making the money back in film. Did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone have any questions to ask?
Yes, so Benis is asking, what are the protections available for script writers in the movie industry?
The basic copyright protection. So what we usually advise is when you come up with an idea or come up with a story, it's you put it in a tangible form. So it's either you write it out or you type it out. And once you are done with the solid piece of work, let's say you call it your script or script A. Script A generally already has its own copyright, because according to our Copyright Act, once a once a work has been produced, meaning that it has moved from an idea to a tangible form, is already protected by Copyright Act. However, for further layer of protection, you go through notification. So we call it notification in Nigeria. So what you do is once that is ready, you speak to an IP lawyer who would help you work with NCC, which is Nigerian Copyright Commission, to put it on notice that this work was created on so day and belongs to so person. It just adds an extra layer of protection for you. So if you're sending out your script for someone to read, before you do that, the first thing you want to do is to sign an NDA. The second thing you want to do, even before you sign an NDA, sometimes people would want to know what they're getting into, maybe they're interested or not. So for example, if you want to shoot a story that it's about LGBTQ and the other person on the other side doesn't want to do that, so one of the things you do is you send a short synopsis, so maybe a paragraph giving a general idea of what you want to send. So if you if you send a paragraph saying, oh, my film or the story rather is about two girls who fell in love and they're being chastised by their community, and looking at serving a sentence. So the film looks at their fate through the sentence or whatever it is. Once the person gets that and the person is interested in that, you send an NDA. When you send an NDA, then you can now send a script to the person to read. So the NDA does a bit of job protecting you also alongside. If you're sending to, let's say, someone that works in a production company, it's usually advised that you send it to their work mail, makes them liable under their employment or their employer. If you send to their personal mail, makes them only liable, not in their capacity as, whatever they are being employed as. And, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Clarice is asking that when filming documentaries, is there need for licenses to use the copyrighted works, or do documentaries fall under fair use?
So the fair use in our copyright law has a limit. So I think for music, if you're using past a certain number of seconds, or if you're not using it for education, so if your documentary is not for education, if your documentary is for purely commercial purposes, you can't hide under the fact that it's a documentary, or it's fair use. So there are limits to the fair use system. I know for music, you can't use past a certain number of seconds. I think it's 30 seconds. And also know that you can't also, if it's for educational research, you have a leeway. And I also know if you're not using it for commercial exploitation, you also have a leeway. However, these things keep changing as new technology and new business model arises, in the world at large.
Okay, so
It
if
depends on the
anyone
case, is it on a
has
case by case basis.
Okay, so if anyone else has a question, just quickly ask it. So while you're trying to ask your questions, I'll just ask a question. We know that in music, there are royalty streams and there are collective management organizations. We also have this in the film industry for like the actors, the actresses, and the producers, etc.
Yeah, so we have what we call performing rights. So that performing rights is your, so the actors, the royalties you, sorry, the rights that emanate from the act of acting, right? So you're supposed to be getting a certain amount of residuals from that. We have a collective management society organization for film. It's called Audiovisual Rights Society. So yeah, they are in charge of collecting such royalties when it's being publicly performed, when it's being publicly shown, broadcast, and all that. So the same rights that are contained under the Copyright Act for music is the same that also applies for film, and those royalties can also be collected. And we have a functional, well, not exactly functional, but we have an established audiovisual rights society. And yes, actors are entitled to different kind of royalties in the film. So we call them back end royalties. So it can be for the performance, it can be for um, co-production credits, sales royalties. Again, it's on a case by case basis according to what you negotiate.
Okay, thank you. What is the position of the law as it relates to the ownership of intellectual protection rights in production of a film or movie?
As it relates to what?
A film or movie. What's the position of the law as it relates to the ownership of intellectual property rights in the production of a film or movie?
The production of a film.
Okay, I think maybe she's trying to find out when a film is being produced, who is the owner of the work by the time they are done with it. Who is the owner of the work? Because I think different people have
The
different
exec
rights in the movies. So who finally owns the movie?
the executive. In fact, are you asking me in practical terms, or you want me to follow what the law says? Because you can go and check your copyright act for that. But
Okay,
the law says whoever shoots the movie, so the cinematographer owns the cinematographic film. However, the executive producer who finances the whole process, so gets the cinematographer, the DOP, the music person, and whatnot, signs different agreements to assign rights at every point in time to be the final owner of the film. So, in practical terms, in practical reality, the owner of the film is the executive producer if he has done all his paperwork right.
okay,
According to the law, cinematographic film belongs to the cinematographer. The owner of the script is the owner of the script. The actor is the owner of his performance. The final owner, the executive producer, collects all the rights from these people to make it his own rights for exploitation.
okay, okay. Do we have any more questions? You can ask your questions or you can type it. It's almost 5. While we're waiting, I'll just ask when movies are being pitched to Netflix and sold to them, do do these actors get back end royalties for it, or it's just the cinematographer or the owner of the movie that gets the royalties? And then if they actually get it, this body that you mentioned, the Audiovisual Rights Society, do they actually pay this, or is there a foreign body that pays? Because I know that in Nigeria, most of the music people are not actually signed to COSON or MCSN. They're actually signed to registered with BMI or ASCAP. So I want to know if it's the same for the sorry, for the movie industry.
So sorry. So the AVRS is up to par. I think the last time, this is to the best of my knowledge, last like things, the catalog they had was about 10 years still. So I haven't been there in a while, so I can't say the current state of which they're functioning right now. But however, in theory, they are supposed to be collecting royalties and distributing to appropriate people. Sorry, can you hear me? I went off for a
I
bit.
can hear you now, but you were breaking at some point, but I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Maybe you try to speak again.
Or, sorry, I think there's something on my internet.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay. So I was saying that in reality, AVRS is supposed to be functional and paying out to both, film owners or EPs, actors, this rights or this money that they collect or whatever. I think the last time I visited AVRS was about 4 or 5 years ago. And when I wanted to get licensed for something and I checked the catalog, it was about 10 years still. I haven't been there in recent times, so I can't speak to how functional they are right now. But in theory, yes, they are supposed to be collecting certain amounts from cinemas, from TV stations, from people that exploit the visual content and pay out performing rights and other rights included to owners. On back end royalty and whether if you pitch your film to Netflix with the artist, it really depends on the contract the actor signed. So if an actor says, okay, I'm supposed to charge 2 million, but I can't, the executive producer can't afford 2 million. Okay, so pay me 500K and convert the remaining 1.5 to X percentage of royalties for certain platforms. So whether it's theatrical release, which is going to cinema, or non-theatrical release, which has your Netflix, your Amazon, your cable, your TV, and all that. It really depends on what you sign as contract. Some people just collect upfront license fee, one-time license fee, and go. Some people play the long game. However, negotiations in practical Nollywood society really depends on your bargaining power and your brand strength to be able to pull that kind of thing. So,
Okay. Thank you very much, Foza. I think it's already 4:50. What was the time you said you were going to leave? I think you said 5 on the dot. Okay. So we have 10 minutes more. Um, Clarice, Benny, Stony, does anyone have an extra question to ask within this time frame? Okay. Okay. So if no one has a question, thank you very much for joining us, Foza.
so So let me just quickly say, usually what I usually advise when you want to go into entertainment law, whether it's music, film, or whatever, because it's a new area, I usually advise that you attack it from a practical point of view. as opposed to a law point of view. Because so if you're working in the field, like for example, you go to become a production assistant or a production manager or a let me see, whatever personal assistant, whatever makes you in the practicality of shooting a film, helps you understand how to use the law to draft contracts, relevant contracts for your clients. So, for example, I'm in film law. I'm specialized in film financing, which means that I help the clients to put together a pitch deck or put together their company to be able to raise money to shoot a film. So if it's to put together paperwork to get loans, to get investments. This is because I'm particularly skilled in business development and business management, right? So I have a broad idea. So apart from just being your lawyer, I have special skills in raising money and helping you to develop, the story. Now, because I raise money for people, and most of the time I have to vouch, for them. I get to supervise the process. So from who are you picking in terms of story? Have you signed the appropriate contract? Who are the crew you're using? And stuff. So some other people are focused on film insurance because that involves lawyers and putting together a proper insurance plan. Some other people, I'm also specialized in music clearance because I have access to music and I understand how to do license agreements and stuff. So between I do film finance, music license, or supervision. Music supervision is saying, and this is because I have an A&R skill, which is saying this scene requires Omale's song, this scene requires, Olamide's song. If they want an Olamide song and they can't get it because they don't have the budget for it, my job is to also tell them, oh, there's this upcoming artist that can take your budget and sounds exactly similar to Olamide's song. So these are the different areas that you can find yourself depending on your skill set to offer service to the industry, the film industry at large. Some If you're working with a big firm, you might just go straight legal. If you're working on your own and coming on your own, you might want to attack it from the practical point of view. Gives you an holistic view to how film law works. It's completely different from the music industry. So you would have to do the dirty work to really understand, what's going on and stuff. So yeah.
Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate the fact that you took the time to be here. I've been seeing you online for a very long time, and when I reached out to Ire, I asked him to recommend someone who can actually take this topic, and he recommended you, and you have done an excellent job. Thank you so much for today, and I'm sure everybody here at least has a better perspective of the film industry. Have a lovely day.
Yes, so sorry guys. I've had a very long week, so I have to run because I have to catch a flight. So I'm so sorry guys. I wish I could spend more time, but yeah. Thank you, Julian. Thank you for this platform and thank you for inviting me. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you
You
so
too.
much. Yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so Clarice, Bernice, Tony, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you've been able to at least have a better understanding of the practicality of or the practical side of of where she's coming from. And I'm happy that at least everybody got to ask one question. So we'll be having our last lecture next week, Friday, and it's be on fashion law. Let's also try to come on time and ask our questions. Just have at least one question, one or two that you can ask the facilitator for next week. And then we'll be rounding up on the second. So thank you very much and have a lovely weekend, Clarice, Bernice, and Tony. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Bye.